Today we're looking at the fundamentals behind research and how it's actually collated. On the panel we've got Pali Lehohla from Statistics South Africa, Martin Wittenberg from Datafirst and Haroon Bhorat from the University of Cape Town as well. Welcome to you all and thanks so much for joining us. Perhaps let's start off right here in Johannesburg. Pali, welcome to the show. We've had a spat between AdCorp and Datafirst, really put the spotlight on methodology that goes behind data collection, and that's put it under scrutiny in a very intense way. Surely there's more than one correct way of collecting data though.
Yes, basically there are a number of methods, well-established methods, and these methods in research are quantitative and qualitative, and of course documentary evidence that you search through. Largely the debate that is at hand, it's about quantitative methods and largely statistical methods that are well-established in research on labor markets. And these are governed by a number of methods and as well as protocols that we agree on as statisticians. Particularly they are governed by the United Nations Statistics Commission, which I chaired over a period of 2 years in 2008-2009. And in relation to labor force surveys, there are specific methods that you follow in terms of measuring your labor markets, in particular estimation of unemployment, and this is universal, largely.
When it comes to those debates, though, I mean, we did mention debate we had last week, and that's not the discussion for today. Today we're just talking about the methodologies more than anything. I think it's really crucial to be able to understand what the number is. What is the unemployment number in South Africa? So if you're an investor, if you are a business person, if you just, you know, the lay person on the street, which number then do you believe?
Well, the statistics agencies across the world are the authoritative producers of these numbers because they have lasting power, they have enduring responsibility to measure employment using the same methods over a period of time. So those are the authoritative institutions. It doesn't mean that they don't misbehave at times. There are areas where statistics offices are not worth their salt. So methods are methods, practice is practice. In relation to Statistics South Africa, we started collecting quarterly labor force surveys from about 2008. Prior to that, we had a half-yearly survey. This was subjected to scrutiny from peers, both from Canada and from Latin America, Brazil, and so on. We had experts that looked at the methods, and the labor market information that is provided by Statistics South Africa is very authentic. It's authentic.
Let's get your view, Haroon, and bring you into the conversation at this point of the conversation. I mean, you know, we've had Pali saying methods are methods and practice is practice. So in that context then, I mean, surely it's all about clarity on how data is collated in the first place, and that's what communities or the public should be focusing on, so that interpretation of those numbers that are released is correct.
Sure, I mean, I think that's correct. I think there are situations where publicly available data is severely sort of criticized by users of the data. The Argentinian inflation numbers are a case in point. The economists have pulled those numbers and they've stopped using the official data. I think we're very far, when one is looking at Stats South Africa's data, we're very, very far from that type of situation. I think what you do see in Stats South Africa's case is a rigorous methodology, as the Statistician General has mentioned, very rigorous peer review mechanism, and in fact documentation that's quite detailed and open to the public for scrutiny. I think the challenge for the public and, if you like, the media and investors is to interrogate that data and the methods underlying that data before, if you like, trusting one number over another.
Where it's that headline number, though, that you know, the general public focuses on.
Community that, you know, statistical numbers are never perfect, but within the context of what Stats SA have done, you've probably got a very robust set of numbers and estimates for the labour market.
Haroon, where
Can I just come in on that? I think that the other thing that one wants to do when one looks at a set of estimates is that somebody who's intellectually honest and scientific about it will also give you some idea of how accurate they are. So they should actually report something about what we call the standard error around that. And Statistics South Africa have become much better at doing that. This unfortunately has been taken as a sign of weakness, because 10 years ago they would just give you a number and say, well, this is it. Now they give you a number and say, well, basically, but it could be anywhere between this number and that. That is actually an improvement in practice rather than a problem, because there is no such thing as a survey which will give you 100% accurate numbers. There's always some error that is involved when you take a sample and try and project it up to the population. And acknowledging that and estimating that is really fundamental. If somebody gives you a set of numbers and does not give you that kind of measure, then you have every right to ask them, how can you be sure that you've got it down to the last decimal point?
So, Haroon,
so we have this paradoxical situation where, in my opinion, Statistics South Africa practice has actually improved over 10 years. But these things are actually used as evidence that the numbers have actually become worse.
Martin, I'm just going to stop you there for a minute. Haroon, before you make a comment, just on the back of what Martin has said here, I mean, you know, where you've got these data points that are so far off and it causes confusion for the layman on the street. I mean, is there a way of placing these data centers under more scrutiny?
I think let's pose that we seem to have lost. We seem to have lost that line.
Okay, we seem to have lost that line to Cape Town, but is there a way of placing these data centers, as I say, under more scrutiny moving forward, Pali?
I don't know what more you need to put under scrutiny as far as I say numbers are, because they are in public scrutiny. We have peer review, peers.
But in terms of those centers being held more liable for the information that they put out?
You mean other than, as I say, we put our methods on the, and of course, the statistician general in terms of the 10 fundamental principles can actually call on anyone to come and justify what their numbers are. I mean, under principle 4, I'm entitled to say a couple of things about bad practice. And some of the numbers are indeed bad practice.
We seem to have gotten Cape Town back. Haroon, I want to pose this question to you. When we're having these discussions here in South Africa, is it not a sign that it's actually a healthy sign that we're having these discussions within South Africa, that we're not waiting for people on the outside to tell us, well, there might be something wrong with your numbers, that we're having this debate right here?
Sure, I mean, I think debates, open, transparent debates, always healthy. I think what we would prefer in the research community is a higher quality of the debate. I think the comment that Martin and Pali have made earlier refers to the fact that the documentation provided by Stats SA ensures an open and rigorous and robust peer review mechanism so that researchers, local and international, can interrogate the data. I think the quality has improved tremendously. The difficulty we have is when the debate enters into a realm where peer review is not allowable and not possible. And so individuals, institutions put up numbers which are not defensible through access to the raw data that those numbers are based on. And all researchers, researcher to researcher, researcher to government institution, that's the kind of conversation that you have to have, where it's an interaction between data that is available, the metadata that's made openly accessible, and questions that can be asked to that data. I think that's a very useful debate worth having, as I say, as long as both sides are open and transparent about the methods and the data that they're using.
Well, when you talk about healthy debate, I want to bring it here to Stats to say when you have these debates, because sometimes it stops being about the numbers. You know, you'll read in a newspaper report, for instance, and we did have this where it becomes an issue where one side of the debate will say, well, these numbers are wrong and it's all a publicity stunt. And instead of going into the numbers and saying, but what is it about? If there is something that we need to be doing to get these numbers to be better in terms of just, I mean, he was talking about the quality of the research. Should the debate not be on that, and rather it does come to this issue of tit for tat, and the spats become a little bit personal?
Yes, it's an unfortunate situation where numbers trump methods. I mean, the claims by some researchers such as Hardcop that our numbers are this and that, and without providing the methodology and the transparent metadata, it's a problem. And you are boxing, you know, you are in a boxing match and you have a wrestler coming to play with you and you don't know how to handle that kind of situation. The point is that SA has put both metadata, methods and everything I don't know what else we can put in the rear.
So let's bring Haroon. Haroon, just to get your viewpoint, I mean, does this warrant perhaps a body, an overarching body, standing its course to facilitate rigorous methodology?
Well, that body exists already. It's called the Statistics Council, right? And the Statistics Council is drawn from independent researchers, provincial and national representatives, all designed to serve as, if you like, the ombudsman of the statistics of South Africa. You have a National Statistics Act, of which we know a lot about. So in that context, there are mechanisms in place. I think the danger that we're signaling here is when, if you like, an alternative body, an alternative institution who has every right to propose numbers, alternative estimates, but does so without providing any detailed tracking device of what data was used, the nature of that data, and the metadata. In other words, the explanatory notes that come along with the data set. None of that has been provided in this employment debacle. I mean, I think the other side in this debate is so poor in their in the types of numbers that they're proposing and the methodology that they're using, that one wonders whether it warrants a debate of this sort, where they actually allowed the space to provide numbers. And to reiterate what Pali has said, it's sort of a debate of numbers over method, and that's very worrying.
I want to bring Martin
I think
in.
that also, I mean,
I want to bring Martin. Martin, I just want to bring you in. I want to bring you in on this. And what I would like to pose to you, Martin, is when it comes to these numbers, whether it's alternative numbers, do you think? And I would like to bring the media into the spotlight here, because one of the things that happens is that you'll have a number come out, and then it makes headlines on just about every media platform there is to say, well, this is the number, and should it not be that when it comes to reporting, would you like to see, and this is just a suggestion I'm making just to get your view, would you like to see the media, for instance, be able to also scrutinize these numbers and also look at the methodologies, that we're not running with numbers and saying, well, this number is from this organization, and then run a story based on that number without looking at where these numbers are actually coming from?
Yes, I think that is a very fair summary of my position. I think that when somebody gives you a set of numbers, you're entitled to ask them, how did you get to those numbers? And what procedure did you use to get to those numbers? And give me an estimate as to the standard error, that's a technical term, but some idea of how accurate those numbers are likely to be. And if you can't supply those, then you shouldn't believe what they tell you. Because basically, we're really in an environment where there's science, and then there's theology. There are a bunch of people who seem to know just through divine inspiration what they think the truth is, and you can't challenge them. Well, and the problem is that basically you can't argue with theology, because basically if the person knows beforehand that that there really are 5 million informal sector workers out there, then no evidence is going to change them. So when we come to the kind of methods that these people employ, the other thing that you should ask them is, did you actually go out and measure this in the sense of do a survey? If you did a survey, who did you ask? Can you give us information about the size of the sample, whether it was nationally representative? And can you give us some idea of the questionnaire that you use? Well, Martin, if these things are all not specified, then basically they are just sucking their thumb. Well, Martin, we've managed to keep it clean today, so let's leave it on that note. And of course, we've interrogated research methodology more than anything else. A pleasure chatting to you once again. Of course, Pali Lehohla from Statistics South Africa with us in studio, Martin Wittenberg from Datafirst, and then Haroon Bhorat from the University of Cape Town as well.